Good afternoon, my name is Todd Constant and I'm the treasurer for the Riley Park Hillcrest Community Association. I've lived in this area for 24 years and decided to volunteer my services to the association. But I'm in trouble about some of the information, financial information that you've been presented so far in the media as well as from Park Board, so I'm here to straighten that out. Our association at Hillcrest Community Center provides programs and room rentals for functions at this center. We've been doing so for over 40 years, first at the old Riley Park Community Center and now at the Hillcrest Community Center. We receive funds for providing the programs, the room rentals, special events, as well as securing grants for specific programs that as a society we can apply for. In 2012, the funds we received from programs, room rentals, etc. was $718,000, with the additional funds from grants covering $127,000 for a total revenue or funds received for 2012 of $845,000. We spent $150,000 on administration, which includes brochures, bookkeeping, office supplies, web costs, fees, and basic supplies. That represents 18% of our income. We spent $325,000, which is 30% of our funds from programs, on program wages and contractors who put on the programs for the association. The Park Board doesn't cover any of this. We spent $118,000, which is 14%. Of the funds received for reimbursing the Parks Board for what is called Group 1 wages, which covers some of the employees that are employed by Parks Board but paid by the association due to a common employer situation that was decided years ago between the city, the union, and the Parks Board. According to an article in the Vancouver Sun by Mike Hager, Nikki Sharma made a comment that taxpayers pay the majority of expenses at each community center building, including supervising staff and a lot of full-time staff. That may be partially true, but that doesn't include the funds that we reimburse the Parks Board for the wages that we pay. The association pays for all staff for the programs that we provide to the community. We spend about $40,000, which is a little bit low, but this is a new facility, to pay for program supplies that are directly used in the programs provided. And we spend $180,000, 21%, to pay for the programs that are related to the grants we receive. We receive $127,000 in grants, and we spend more on the programs that are associated with these grants by subsidizing it even further to the amount of $53,000. The remainder contingency, the funds we receive less the funds we spend, is about $30,000 for 2012, which represents 4%. And this is to ensure that we have enough money in the case that all programs do not sell out. But as you are fully aware, this excess is due to our programs being full at Hillcrest. If they were not full, the association could lose money. Last year, most programs were at capacity, allowing us to achieve a 4% contingency and top up the funds we spend on programs that we receive for grants, which was the $53,000. We also have funds available for families that can't afford the programs that we provide, and we subsidize those people as well. Now I want to talk about what the Park Board and media is calling retained earnings. Our association has retained earnings of $665,000. To put it into perspective, that is over 47 years. For the first $275,000 of the $665,000 is reserved for future renovations and senior programs. In other words, if we need money for renovations or to provide senior programs, we can do this without reducing other programs or taking current year funds to do what we want to do as far as the renovations or seniors are concerned in this community. But as the seniors have almost abandoned the center, the senior programs have gone down because their seniors have left this area. They're here, they just don't come to the center. Last year, the Parks Board wanted to use the field house that is located on the former Riley Park grounds for an art and residence program put on by the Parks Board. For the associations that agreed, some renovations were done to ready these buildings. When Hillcrest decided to move away from that model to providing art programs like ceramics and music programs, we as an association were told there was no money for renovations. I'm also the committee on the Committee for Arts and Culture and the liaison with the association's board's executive. So I approached our group to use our restricted renovation fund for the improvements needed for the field house to provide new programs for the community. I was told it would be ready last month, but unfortunately not one thing has been done since August to renovate and add more programs to the field house, yet it has come to our attention, or this is my belief, that the Park Board has the funds to renovate their offices right over there at Hillcrest by enclosing the balcony and increasing our office space. I do question the Park Board's motives when they say they have no money for renovations of the field house, reducing the hours of operation at Hillcrest as well as other community centers, and then to spend it on senior staff offices whose offices are at Hillcrest, although I'm not sure why. I'll let you decide which should be the priority. Our association feels that we are a neglected community center. No more space for the community, no way to participate in the renovations to increase the area that we can provide programs for, even though we have the ability to not only raise the funds, but in fact already have some funds that can be utilized. They can be utilized for more programs, additional daycare and childcare spaces. Keep in mind that most of the programs are at capacity, and over the next few years, with densification of Little Mountain, Canby Corridor, and Main Street, this situation will only worsen. Now I'll talk about the $390,000 left over in retained earnings, which is the accumulated amount of funds received over the years, less the funds spent, and this is over 47 years. If this was a for-profit company, these numbers would not be very good, but as we are a not-for-profit society, they are very acceptable. So when the Park Board and media say that the associations have an abundance of funds held in retained earnings, you should really look a little bit deeper to determine why they are there. If you look at a more profitable company, the retained earnings over 40 years would most likely be a lot more than ours, but we are for not-for-profit, so we can deal with that. As you can see, our finances are transparent with little contingency and surplus from year to year. We are volunteers, stewards for the community. We are your neighbors. We live in this community, which is your community. The financial decision to proceed as one of the centers that have issues with the new agreement put forth by the Parks Board has not been made lightly. We are trying to do what is right for our community, as well as the other centers who are trying to do what's right for their neighbors. Thank you for your time.
Obviously, you can tell Todd is all about the numbers. The plan is fundamentally the same as the one Malcolm Bromley presented to the Community Centre Associations in November as non-negotiable. Malcolm Bromley is the GM of Parks Board. And for 6 months prior to this, all the way up until January, he would come to association after association and tell you point blank, this is a take it or leave it offer. You can sign up, and if you don't, you'll be removed and replaced. We'll find someone else. This is non-negotiable. Now, I wouldn't have believed it if it came just from one person. How many association presidents in here had the same meeting and had the same experience? Show of hands. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And you know what? Dean Davison, our lawyer, was in the room because we just thought, I wonder if he'll say it again. And sure enough, he did. So if that's the idea, the city's idea of negotiating, I don't know what we can expect going forward. Now, this moves to the next motion. City manager, well, let me back up here. We have a lovely guest here, Adrian Carr, if you can actually get up. And Adrian Carr had put a motion forward to City Council to discuss the public impact of what Parks Board and the city were planning. This was summarily quashed by the GM, Penny Ballum, unilaterally and really without cause, from all we can tell. Now, people are asking, why is it that we are having this public awareness campaign? And why associations had spent money? And the answer is simple. We are doing what the Parks Board should have been doing for the past 6 months. We have been forced every center that has basically got up and shouted back at Parks Board no has been forced to stand up and let the public know exactly what it is that Parks Board and City Hall are planning and what it is they're exactly about to lose. Now, I'd actually ask Councillor Card to get up and have the next slide. Okay. Sorry, I'm being directed. I feel like I'm at home again. What we are looking for. What we are looking for is what every community center association has always looked for. and that is fair, transparent negotiations. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking to be threatened and bullied. We're just asking to sit at a table and talk without being threatened, without being told this is a take it or leave it offer and that you will be removed. So I don't think that's too much to ask for. Investigation of, you know what, we've offered. They've said, no, they want the revenue. We've asked for an investigation of collaborative cost-sharing models versus centralized or of locally generated retainings. So this, again, is totally contradictory to what the Parks Board has been saying. Nobody is saying that we're not willing to negotiate or talk. Nobody is saying that everything has to stay the same. It's Parks Board who's saying that no, this is a take it or leave it offer. No, the money is non-negotiable. No, controlled programming isn't negotiable. So understanding the significant negative impact on grant funding and fundraising that will result if the current plan is implemented has been, I think I've pretty much explained it. And just nothing the Parks Board has come across with is really passing the smell test.